there is a lot of questions as to exactly how about 45 Venezuelan migrants who were in Texas, in Bexar County, Texas, near San Antonio, how they ended up going from San Antonio to Florida, then to Martha's Vineyard. There is a lot of questions around this Perla, who was apparently the woman who was approaching these migrants in Texas.
She was quoted in the NPR article initially, and she essentially said that this is how she was promised work papers, expedited work papers, and then she was tasked with recruiting other migrants. Yeah, and it seems a little bit dubious, that story, because now we know that, and this is from Talking Points memo, but they're apparently most of the news about this angle of it are coming from local reporting out of the Cape Cod Times and the San Antonio Report. That Perla was a tall blonde woman with light complexion. She reportedly worked with 2 other women and 2 men, one of whom drove a white pickup. This does not sound like an immigrant herself. They apparently housed the migrants at a hotel near the airport for multiple days as they attempted to reach a quota. The quota was apparently 60, and they were disappointed they weren't able to get a sufficient number of people. And as Josh Marshall at Talking Points memo says, nothing about this sounds remotely like any kind of state government run or directed operation, at least not on the books. We now know via Jed Legum that there was a copy of a brochure that was actually sort of like made up from a UN refugee settlement thing in terms of what it was promising. And there's some question is like, how did this operation, what relationship did they have with the governor of Florida? So far, there have been we have heard nothing from the Department of Justice as to, and there could potentially be federal charges here. We don't know. I mean, this went across state lines. But certainly, the sheriff from Bexar County is beginning to investigate to find out what laws may have been broken. Here is Javier Salazar, Bexar County Sheriff.
We are opening up a case with an investigation with regard to the suspected activities involving the 48 migrants from Venezuela that, as we understand it at this point, the facts of the case at this point, are that on Wednesday, September 14th, here in Bexar County in the city of San Antonio, our understanding is that a Venezuelan migrant was paid what we would call a bird dog fee to recruit approximately 50 migrants from the area around a migrant resource center on San Pedro here in San Antonio. As we understand it, 48 migrants were lured, I will use the word lured, under false pretenses into staying at a hotel for a couple of days. They were taken by airplane. At a certain point, they were shuttled to an airplane where they were flown to Florida and then eventually flown to Martha's Vineyard, again, under false pretenses is the information that we have, that they were promised work, they were promised the solution to several of their problems. They were taken to Martha's Vineyard from what we can gather for little more than a photo op, video op, and then they were unceremoniously stranded in Martha's Vineyard. What infuriates me the most about this case is that here we have 48 people that are already on hard times, right? They are here legally in our country at that point. They have every right to be where they are. And I believe that they were preyed upon. Somebody came from out of state, preyed upon these people, lured them with promises of a better life, which is what they were absolutely looking for, and with the knowledge that they were going to cling to whatever hope they could be offered for a better life, to just be exploited and hoodwinked into making this trip to Florida and then onward to Martha's Vineyard for what I believe to be nothing more than political posturing to make a point. Well, look, we all know that during a political campaign, things can get nasty, things can get out of hand.
All right, I think that we don't need any more of that. I mean, the point is, he's opening investigation, and how someone from DeSantis's office got on the plane in Miami to videotape it so they could, when they got off the plane, and they gave that videotape directly to Fox. I mean, it's unclear. Was it tax dollars that was involved in this? Mm-hmm. Who was this migrant who was working with 4 or 5 other people to put up people in a hotel? Where did the money come for that? These are all questions I think that ultimately need to be answered. And
that Talking Points memo article says it looks like a Project Veritas type stunt. I would not be shocked if right-wing groups like Project Veritas or other similar kind of right-wing troll groups are involved. We just don't know yet.
Wasn't there a right-wing like millionaire who funded the was it Kristi Noem's
travel down to the border?
Yeah, the National Guard
National
went
Guard
from
stuff. Yeah.
And so it's quite possible that's what's going on. But I mean, there's fraud here. And arguably trafficking. I don't know. They'll obviously investigate these issues, but
I'd also just underline the fact that so far that they were lured with promises of work, right? Not freebies or anything like that,
right? And
not ballots harvested from Joe Biden's office.
And also, these people were legal. They were undocumented, but they were legal by any definition of the word. They all had court dates because they were in the system, which is exactly what is called for by the statutes of this country. It's abusive. It really is abusive. And regardless of where they're flown, without their sort of consent and understanding as to where they were going. But hopefully, and is it just a countdown until Tucker Carlson has a segment on this where it's more Joe Biden weaponizing, I guess, the local sheriffs in San Antonio?
Authoritarianism.
Authoritarianism.
Wow. Fish rots from the head down, right?
Yep. All right. Well, listen, we're gonna. It got all the way down pretty quick.
Yeah, I know.
Down to the county level, Texas.
Hey, that's a deep state for you.
24 months. That's all it takes.